It was December 1968. The world was in turmoil. The Vietnam War raged on and protests filled the streets. Leaders were assassinated and fear was everywhere. But above the clouds, something extraordinary was about to happen. For the first time in history, humanity would leave Earth behind and travel further than anyone has ever before. This is the story of Apollo 8, the mission that changed everything. Originally, Apollo 8 was just going to be a test flight in Earth orbit. But in August 1968, only 4 months before launch, everything changed. Chris Kraft, NASA's Director of Flight Operations, and George Low, one of mission planners, proposed a radical idea. They suggested skipping Earth orbit tests entirely and flying Apollo 8 directly to the moon. It was an enormous risk and also something that had never been done before, but they knew that they were running out of time. The Soviet Union was leading the space race. They had launched the first satellite, the first man and woman in space, the first spacewalk and the first lunar probes. There were even rumors that the Soviet crewed flyby to the moon would happen within months. NASA couldn't really wait. If Apollo 8 succeeded, well, the United States would take the lead and a path to the moon would finally open. On December 21, 1968, Apollo 8 launched into the skies. It was powered by the mighty Saturn V rocket, the most powerful machine ever built. Standing 110 meters tall, it weighed over 3,000 tons and had the thrust of more than 400 jetliners combined. This was the first time that the Saturn V rocket carried the crew. It had only flown twice before, and both missions had serious problems. So now the rocket had to work perfectly because 3 lives depended on it. 3 men climbed into that spacecraft that morning. Frank Borman was the commander, a disciplined, nonsense leader. Jim Lovell was the command module pilot, experienced, reliable, and already a veteran of Gemini 7 and Gemini 12. And William Anders, the rookie of the group, served as the lunar module pilot, even though there was no lunar module on this flight. The lander wasn't ready in time, so Apollo 8 would fly without it, making the mission lighter, faster, and fully focused on reaching lunar orbit. The spacecraft was called the Command Service Module, or CSM, but the crew named the command module Odyssey. The command module was a small and cone-shaped. The astronauts' living and working space was the same. Attached to it was the service module, which carried oxygen, fuel, the engine needed for course corrections. The whole spacecraft measured about 11 meters in length. Because the launch was expedited, they didn't really have time to finish the lunar module, which meant that they would basically fly with no backup engines. If something went wrong with the main engine, there would be no way to return home. The goal of Apollo 8 was simple in theory: to reach the moon, to orbit it, test all the critical systems, and return safely back to Earth. But the mission had another important role to play. While orbiting the moon, the crew took detailed photographs of potential landing sites. They focused especially on the Sea of Tranquility and other smooth plains. Their data would directly guide Apollo 11, helping it choose a safe place to land. In a very real sense, Apollo 8 scouted the moon for the first human's footsteps. But Apollo 8 gave us something more than just data. It gave us perspective. It was during the 4th orbit that Bill Anders looked out the window while he was adjusting an onboard camera, and what he saw wasn't the moon, but Earth. It was rising above the lunar and gray horizon, and so at that moment he captured the photo, the one that became one of the most iconic images in human history, Earthrise. But in that moment, our planet looked small, fragile and beautiful. A blue marble floating in the vast darkness. And on Christmas Eve, with the moon below and Earth behind him, the crew made a live broadcast. They read the opening lines of the book of Genesis.
The crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void.
This then became the most watched television broadcast of all time, because in a year filled with violence and division, well, Apollo 8 gave humanity a moment of peace and unity. The mission was not without danger. Every engine burn had to be flawless. A single error in timing or direction could send the crew into deep space, with no way back. At one point, they discovered they had a small navigation error. At the time, without GPS or any advanced computer, Jim Lovell and Bill Anders actually had to manually correct it. They used the stars and Earth's horizon, and it was purely due to their skills that they managed to correct it. After 10 orbits and nearly 20 hours circling the moon, the Odyssey spacecraft fired its engine one last time and aimed for Earth. Then when they re-entered the atmosphere, it was at nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed, the heat shield was probably glowing white hot. And then for a moment, it was a silence. For a few minutes, mission control had to wait. Finally, the signal came through. The parachute had deployed. On December 27, 1968, Apollo 8 splashed down into the Pacific Ocean. The crew was picked up by USS Yorkton, alive, safe, and victorious. Sure, it didn't land on the moon, but it paved the way and it proved that we could navigate to the moon and back. It also gave us confidence and clarity as to how to plan for Apollo 11. And perhaps, most importantly, it probably changed how we see our planet. Earth, as seen from Apollo 8, was no longer just a place we lived. It became something to cherish, to protect, something we shared. They were the first humans to escape Earth's gravity, and the first to look back. In doing so, they changed how we see our planet, and ourselves. It was Apollo 8, the mission that sent humanity to the moon, and brought Earth back into focus.